Alcohol has been around since forever.
The 40s.
Probably a little bit longer than that. But what about weed? What about, when did people start growing this just to smoke it?
That's a good thing. Carl Sagan was a pot smoker, and in one of his researches about pot, he decided that it was the first agriculturally husbanded crop by humans. So about 10,000 years ago, we started growing marijuana, about 12,000 years ago, 10,000 BC. And ever since then, we've had it in every culture on Earth, from white people of northern Siberia to Africans to Asians to North Americans. And it's been in Canada for 400 years anyway. We grew it here for hemp. We grew it for all the sailcloth. New Westminster used to have the New Westminster Cordage Company, and they used to grow all the sumac hemp around Sumas in Washington and just on this side of the border to Soyuz. And we had a massive hemp industry here just making rope and sails.
Were they smoking it too, though?
No. When it was made illegal in 1923, there's no known record of any Canadian ever having smoked cannabis. In the 400 years we were growing it. Typically, though, cannabis was available in medicine bottles, in tincture, so you'd spray it or take a tablet or a cough syrup. And there was lots of cannabis and opium in those early patent medicines.
All right, line 2, truck driver Pete in his truck. Go ahead, you're talking to Marc Emery.
Hey, how's it going, Mark? Hey, just a little off topic here, Jeff. I got a little tidbit for you. A friend of mine works at the P&E and the barn, who rubbed shoulders recently with a well-known TV personality.
Oh, all right.
Okay, yeah.
Tamara Taggart.
Yeah.
She's very lovely, Tamara Taggart, co-host with Regis.
I'll tell you this, but you're going to promise not to tell anyone else, okay?
Okay, it'll be our secret, Pete.
Swears like a trucker.
I'm sure she does. Everybody in broadcasting does. I've never met a broadcaster, TV or radio, that doesn't swear like a trucker when off the air.
I'm Tamara effing Taggart. Where's my smokes?
Yeah.
Andrew and Coquitlam, go ahead. It's open phones.
I have a couple questions. First one is basically, say all goes well, you get down there, the U.S. government doesn't screw you over, you serve your time, or you get brought up here to serve your time. Afterwards, what is protecting you from being tried again if you continue distributing seeds, etc.? Is there some sort of double jeopardy rule that protects you, or are you basically potentially going to have to go through the whole thing again?
No, I don't think so. I haven't sold seeds since 4 years ago when I got arrested for it, so there would be no infraction since then. And although the United States can do any kind of double dealing it wants, I have not really that much protection once I go down there. So it's a crapshoot, hoping for the best and hoping that my supporters can keep an eye on what government does, so that if anything bad happens to me, then there's a consequence from my supporters around the world.
Hey, Mark, marijuana contains toxins of cyanide. Why would we Canadians want to inhale these toxins? Won't this take a toll on Canadians' health? Text message just came through. What do you say to that?
Oh, there's no cyanide in cannabis, smoked or unsmoked or any form.
How many
whatsoever.
Chemicals are there? Have they broken it down? Is there like 52 chemicals in there?
Well, they're not dangerous chemicals, though. They're all
natural.
They're all cannabinoids, and the thing is, when you burn plant matter, you get the release of some things like carbon dioxide and what have you. But you know what? No one gets cancer of the lungs or respiratory system ever from cannabis. And we have 40,000 people a year die from lung cancer of tobacco alone. Not a single person year after year after year dies from cannabis. And so there's just no truth to the idea that there's any consequence of any substantial damage.
Have people done studies, though? Because it is illegal, right? So there probably haven't been that. I mean, there have been tons of studies into tobacco use because it's legal. But the fact that cannabis is illegal, how much studying has there actually been of health and health
a lot,
effects?
actually, but not much in the United States. Most of the studies, and the studies are often heavily biased. Like a recent study had people being injected with THC in England, and then those results analyzed. Well, nobody injects THC, so it's a complete artificial experiment that wouldn't have any application in the real world. And then the other experiments they did with monkeys, where they forced monkeys to smoke the equivalent of 10 years' worth of cannabis in the space of 3 months. And of course, the monkeys got like brain problems because they were getting so much smoke in their head. And monkeys try and please, so they just kept smoking, and the scientists really liked all that. But these tests are not done with human beings over a period of time, or they'd conclude that no human being gets cancer from smoking cannabis, and that's quite remarkable when you consider the number of people dying in this country.
I thought you couldn't OD on marijuana. You would pass out first.
Yeah,
you get super hungry, and then you would pass out.
You can't OD, and you can OD on everything from water, and deli meats will kill you in this country, peanuts, sesame seeds, lots of things that are
grasping at straws.
No, they can.
Yeah, no, they 12 people last year died of deli meats. But I mean, the thing is, what's the biggest killer in this country today? Not tobacco, it's sugar. It's, obesity and diabetes, right? And so you're looking at all these legal products like Jack Daniels and sugar and salt. Table salt's killing people like crazy too, right?
So the Jack Daniels.
The safest marijuana is safer than any pretty well legal product out there. It's not going to kill you like everything else. So from cars, guns, peanuts, and prescription drugs, tobacco, alcohol, sugar, salt, it's all going to kill you.
All day if we let them. James in Abbotsford, go ahead, line 4. Last phone call.
Mr. Emery, I'm assuming, you support the legalization of marijuana, but you don't see it going any further than that?
Well, that would be the first thing you do. You'd want to demonstrate to people that prohibition is a bad idea by repealing it. And you'd repeal the major one, which is marijuana prohibition, establish how it's to be sold. It would be sold in places like Starbucks where people would order 3 grams of White Widow and 4 grams of this, and then they'd pay tax on it, and it'd be vacuum sealed, and they'd take it home. And
no, I totally understand that, but my issue is actually more like, we look into history when you had opium dens operating in Canada, right?
Or in Vancouver, yeah.
20s, right? Exactly. Huge, and the number of lives that decimated. Now, granted, opium and opiates and heroin, that's a completely different animal. But that's why I'm asking you.
Well, what makes you get the impression that they were decimating lives? The Chinese people didn't have a particularly difficult time with mortality over opium when they were in Vancouver. We had opium dens here in this city from about 1885 to 1925, 1930. Yes. In Chinatown. But the Chinese were actually victimized by those laws. Thousands of them were deported back to China as a consequence of the laws. But
no, I understand. That's exactly where this is coming from. Actually, when I was in Moose Jaw this past summer, they have a tunnel tour where you get to see the tunnels that the laundry workers lived in, and the dens were part of this tunnel system and network. But I'm not talking necessarily yes, mortality, because inevitably you would get guys who would overdose on this stuff, because it's so much. Because as I said, this is a different issue. I'm not talking marijuana.
Yeah, hang on. How did we get over to heroin and
tunnels and Moose Jaw?
Well, that's important though, because organized crime thrives on illegal drugs, and if we want to get rid of the gangs, the worst thing we can do to create gangs is send people to jail, because that's where the Red Scorpions gang formed in jails and around here in the Lower Mill. And then they recruit in jail too. So we don't want to send people to jail for drugs, so that's where they join gangs. And we don't want to give the gangs the black market worth billions of dollars to handle these drugs too, because things are going to go wrong like we see now. We're going to have killings, we're going to have turf wars, we're going to have a lot of unnecessary crime, and it's all manufactured. We could just make these things, repeal prohibition of drugs today, and
sell it at Costco.
Oh, Costco! Can you imagine? You get the case of it.
Kirkland weed.
The Saturday, September 19th, worldwide rally protest for Marc Emery, looking for how many countries?
1,000 places around the world.
1,000 places around the world. And the big date for you, circled on your calendar, Monday, September 21st.
Yeah.
Mark, how lost would you be without Jody?
I'd be really lost. That's the most disappointing aspect of
57 notes to Mark.
Yeah, that's it.
Remember
20
this.
minutes.
Remember this.
That's right. And people think I'm the one that tells her what to say.
Mark, when you get to the border and they can say anything to declare,
a Jody. I have
just
a Jody.
A suitcase.
And a big bag of weed.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in and putting up with us, Mark.
Hey, thank you, man.
Best of luck. Can we talk to you? Can you make any phone calls from Guantanamo Bay?
I can call you, probably collect. Jody will arrange that. I'll give you a call.
No.
Yeah. I have to call you collect, man. And they really make a racket in those private prisons that way. It's about $3 a minute. When if you had a scratch card, it'd be 3 cents a minute, right?
Are you going to go psychedelicize now?
Not quite yet. Got to talk to our banker.
Thank you, Marc Emery.
The Jeff O'Neill Show, weekday mornings 6 to 10 on 99.3 The Fox.